husband did to me.
The reason why we're here today is we really we want people to understand what's going on.
For too long, we viewed domestic violence as an individual problem.
I'm here in honor of my mother. I'm here in honor of myself.
Domestic violence is a very big issue.
I've been going through domestic violence abuse since I was 12 years old.
We want people to understand that this is a very real thing that's happening. Women, as myself, when this is happening, we're not talking about it. We're not telling people because we're afraid. You know, we're afraid of getting hurt more.
My husband's father, he's one of the state's attorneys here in Miami, so he gets away with it.
I grew up in a family subject to abusive situation. My father was abusive to all of the girls in my family, including myself, and terribly abusive to my mother.
Please, the man is dangerous. Please help us.
When you look at somebody, you can't tell that they're a victim until they start talking. And when they start talking, that's when everything comes out, and you say, oh, no, that couldn't be possible. Yes, it is.
I only want to just go home. I'm afraid. I'm in a wheelchair.
How do they get away? It's not easy. It is the most hardest, it is the most dangerous situation that somebody can be in trying to get away from an abusive relationship, because one of the things they say is,
if he can't have me, nobody will.
They don't like your friends, they don't like your family, they don't like anything that you're doing, so you stay there, you have nobody else to talk to.
I'm here to give hope and light to young women that they can change this situation, improve their lives, and get out of this situation. To educate young women and men that this situation and abuse must stop.
People don't talk about this, so it becomes hidden, so therefore people think that it's not happening. But it's happening, and it's real. And there's women right now that are living in terror in their homes, trying to keep their homes safe for their children. They're depending on that economic security to have those 2 salaries, to pay their rent, to get their food, to get, just to get the basic necessities of life.
We're out here to make people aware there's danger out here.
We try to say, you need to get away from that relationship. When you're in an abusive relationship, you need to get away.
If women can't leave and get unemployment compensation, they're staying in those relationships, and they're hurt and they have nowhere to go. If we can't educate people and show them that economic security is so important and unemployment compensation is so important for them, they're staying there.
We need to make sure that there is some way for them to maintain their economic status, because the spouse that they were dependent on is no longer there to provide financial support. And the job, they may have to quit that job to be able to go into hiding, to be able to go into a shelter and get away from that relationship.
As you stay there, and I know with me and everybody else that's gone through that, I'm no different. I went through, 17 years of this. I'm no different, because there's women going through that right now. It gets worse. The intensity increases, and it continues worse and worse because you have no way to go out. And then that's when we're dying, when we're leaving.
We know victims of domestic violence use emergency health care, for instance, 8 times more often than non-victims.
We should have more health care, affordable housing. Those are things that make a big difference in the process of moving on with our lives.
This situation affects everyone. It affected everyone in my family. It affected my mother, it affected me, it affected my brothers, it affected my aunts, it affected my uncles, it affected my grandparents. And it touches everyone in an adverse way.
Where's the first place that a perpetrator's going to go to look for them after they've left the home? They go to the job. And then you have that person ends up being in danger, and their co-workers also end up being in danger.
It's very difficult and frightening when you have to go to work and your abuser is calling you, threatening you and your co-workers. It's not only your life in danger, but the ones of your co-workers also.
Me and my kids haven't eaten in a week. We are so nervous.
This is truly a community problem, and therefore requires a community response, not an individual response. As you've heard today, domestic violence impacts people's coworkers, not just the victims, but the people they work with who may be harassed and targeted. It impacts our children who witness horrific abuse and are more likely to go into their schools and bully and hurt other people or not get the help they need and go on to be in abusive relationships themselves.
My son is afraid.
We should have more education in schools so our boys, our girls can learn the early signs of domestic violence so that they're aware when something starts to happening, that they know what's next and they can stop it in time.
We just want to go to my grandmother, get away from this man. I have 4 brain tumors. He kicked me in my head, put it down.
We need to make sure that economic status isn't an obstacle for the victim that is trying to get away from that abusive relationship.
There's a woman telling you it happened.
Here.
This is not a joke. It could be you.
It's other people that speak the same language. It's people that actually understand what we're going through. When you're trying to tell a coworker or a friend, but in these relationships you really don't have friends because the abuser doesn't like your friends, so therefore you don't really have too many friends, so therefore that's all part of that controlling bit, you know? So you don't talk to other people. Coming here with Sisterhood of Survivors, we all know that. We speak that special language. We understand the language.
It's important to raise this issue not just with our elected officials, but with all of us, who then lobby those elected officials to make these very necessary public policy changes.
When I come here, Sisterhood of Survivors, we've all been there. We all understand. We've gone through it, thank goodness, and we're alive. And that's why we want to speak for those women that are still there, because we know that they're there.
All of your viewers, what can they do? First, they can vote. What can they vote for? Legislation that will secure the economic security of women, enable women to leave an abusive situation. That is the best thing that we can do to uplift and empower women. And that's what Sisterhood of Survivors is attempting to do this day at the very end of the Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
We as Sisterhood of Survivors are calling on all Floridians to work together so we can end the vicious cycle of domestic violence.
We have a long, long way to go, but we are working on it with very courageous people around us.
I really appreciate everyone's hope and everyone's faith and everyone's strength in looking and helping us to end this travesty, this epidemic of domestic violence.